Up until this point, many of the transformations we have made to data have been removing table elements. For example, removing columns or filtering rows. But obviously, we don't just take away from our data. We can also build on existing fields and add new columns. There are two common ways to doing this, the first of which is adding custom columns. Essentially, you just set up a formula, maybe doing calculations, but overall, you're often referencing your existing data. The other option is adding a new column from example. This consists of selecting specific columns that you want to build off of. You then start typing in your own sample values of what you want your new field to look like. Power Query will compare what you're typing in with the example columns you've selected, and it will use an algorithm to detect a pattern and try to fill in the rest of the column, predicting what you want it to look like. I think this is a pretty awesome feature, so let's try some of this in Power Query. At this point, please open the Adding Columns and Group By file and import the table into Power Query. To review, we go up to Data and find in the Get and Transform Data pane From Table and Range. This is already in the extant workbook we're working with, so I'll click From Table and Range, and this launches the Power Query editor. Now, our hypothetical scenario for this data is that we own 3 food trucks, and across these different trucks, we sell corn dogs, pizza, and street tacos, and we've got a few locations that we cycle through in the city and more suburban areas. We have data on the number of orders we take during a given day, what total sales in dollars were, and a comparison for the same day 1 month ago. Our main objective is to learn how to add columns and summarize data using the Group By option. For example, the data we've got right now is already fairly aggregated to a macro level. But what if I want to calculate the average amount of individual sales on a given day? In other words, this would be equal to the total sales for a day divided by the total number of orders that were placed. Let's do this by adding a custom column. I'm going to go up to the ribbon and find the Add Column menu, select it, and I'm going to click the Custom Column button. First, we give the column a name. I'll call mine Average Sale Amount. After this, we can construct formulas in the box below. As a reminder, the formula language in Power Query is called M, sometimes M code, and that's not really something I'm going to teach you or expect you to know in this class. But you are capable of doing basic arithmetic operations referencing columns here, so let's practice that. For this average sale amount, I want total sales divided by the number of orders on a given day. Now, I want you to limit the amount of actual typing you do in this box. Instead, I want you to double click on fields in this available columns area. I'll double click on total sales. I'll then add a division operator or slash after that. And then I'll double click on number of orders to finish this formula. At the bottom, Power Query will tell you if it has detected any syntax errors. Mine looks good to go. I'm ready to hit OK. But if you have a typo already, some sort of mistake in here, my best advice is just to rewind the video, start from scratch, and try again. I'll now click OK. We now have a new column that calculates our average sale amount. I don't want to see all these decimals, so I'll change the data type to currency. Let's do this again, but this time we'll calculate the month-over-month percent change in sales. So I'll go up, add custom column, and we'll name this one percent change. For a percent change formula, it's going to follow the pattern of new minus old data points divided by the old data point. So to preserve order of operations, I'll type an open parenthesis. I'll double click total sales. I'll type a minus sign and double click prior month sales and a close parenthesis. Up to this point, we've simply subtracted prior month sales from our current month's total sales. I'll add a divide sign, and we're going to divide this by the prior month. Double click that field. No syntax errors detected. I'm ready to hit OK. Let's set this data type to be percent. This is one way of adding columns to your data set. Before proceeding to the next method, I also want you to be familiar with ways of presenting summarized, aggregated data using the Group By option. Essentially, this is like constructing a pivot table within Power Query, which again can be a pretty cool feature if it's a report you want a live data connection to. As an example, let's suppose I want to calculate the total number of orders for each truck. The value I want to summarize is the number of orders. I want to add these all up, and the category by which I want to perform this operation is truck or truck name. So since truck is the group by which I want to summarize this data, I'll select the truck name column. I'm going to go up to the home menu, and here under transform we have group by. We could click it here, or we could right click the column that's our group, truck name. I'll right click it and find group by a little halfway below all these options. I'll click group by. I'm going to keep these basic settings. I want to group by truck name, and we get to set a new column name here. We'll call this total orders by truck. Maybe that was a little long. You could name yours something shorter. And what I want to do is not count the number of rows for each truck. I want to take the sum of which column? Well, I don't want to take the sum of truck name. I'm going to change this to number of orders. So going through this one more time, the group that we designate is truck name. And for each truck name, I want it to sum the total number of orders. We hit OK, and as you can see, it creates something akin to a pivot table. We can see that corn dogs apparently are the most popular. They have the most total orders during the month. Let's do this again, but now I want to calculate total sales by location. Well, I want to get back to my old data. So to go back a step, I'm going to click the X in our applied steps over here. Here we've got our data again. And this time, again, I want total sales by location. Well, the fact they said by location, that should cue you in that we want to do this group by with the location column. By location, take the sum of total sales. We could name this sales by location and hit OK. A pretty easy way of setting up what's something like a pivot table, an aggregation method within Power Query. Let's go back now. One more time, here's our data. I want to show you the other way that we're going to add columns in this class. So going up to add column, the first option says column from examples. And this is actually one of the times where I would recommend right-clicking on column headers to achieve this task. You could click this button, but when you do, it's going to select every single field as part of a pattern it's going to try and detect. Often, I might only want it for one or two fields, so I prefer to start by right-clicking a field and clicking Add Column from Examples. Let's practice a couple of ways that we can extract text from columns. Suppose I want to set up a column to indicate the general category of food a particular truck sells. So I'm going to right-click Truck Name, select Add Column from Examples. Now notice that of all these column headers, only Truck Name is highlighted green with this checkbox indicated. No other checkbox has been selected. We're only working with Truck Name. This is our way of telling Power Query, I only want to consider this field when it tries to detect a pattern. My job now is to just type in values in this new column and see if it can fill in the rest with the pattern it infers. I'll start by typing corn dog, all lowercase, and hit enter. And already it has an idea of what we'd like it to be here. If we look up at the formula it constructed on its own, it says it's using some sort of a function that identifies a delimiter, in this case a space, within the truck name field. In other words, it's taking all the text before the space in truck name and it's making it lowercase. That's cool, but what if instead of just taco, I want this to say tacos, plural. So I'll come down here, select this, and I will type tacos. Hit enter. And while it did allow for that change, we've now lost our pizza values. Let's look at how the formula has changed. We go up here and see it's now relying on if-then logic, and it has only allowed for two potential truck names. Corn Dog Central, Taco Master, everything else has been set to null, or empty values. So let's type in one more pizza value. This time let's do it in the second row, Pizza, and it is able to pick up the rest. To name the column, I'll double click the column header and say, I don't know, food. Okay. And now we have a new column from example. Let's try this again, but let's see if we can create entire sentences. This time I am going to click this button, column from examples. Because this time I'm going to use data from several fields. I'm going to write a description of the day's events. I'm not sure when this particular field will come in handy, but I'm just trying to introduce you to some cool capabilities in Power Query. So I click the button. You'll notice every single field is highlighted now and selected. Go all the way to the end to see what we're working with here. Okay. And in this first row, I'm going to type, there were 97 corn dog orders at the downtown location on September 1st, period. And isn't that cool? It has recognized the number of orders. It picked up what kind of food is being ordered. It recognized our locations. It's discriminated between downtown and suburb. And if I bring this out a little further, we can see, it looks like September 1st. It just copied that all the way down. We can see it's just adding September 1st at the end for everything. So let's keep adding some values here. We could type this entire second row from scratch, but I'm actually just going to double click it to edit its value. And at the end, instead of September 1, I'm going to delete the 1 and type in a 2 and see what happens. So bringing this out to see again, you know what? It's actually done a pretty good job. It's not just doing a sequence of numbers. It is extracting a day from a date field. One other thing I would mention here, it's probably best practice to only check the boxes for the specific columns we want to be our examples. For example, total sales, I probably should have unchecked that in prior month sales. I wasn't using those at all. There's no need to confuse the detection algorithm by having it search across columns that aren't going to be used here. I'll call this description and hit OK. Lastly, let's do a column from example to show how it can work with numbers too. What if I want to round this average sale amount column to the nearest dollar? I'll right click, select add column from examples, and I'll start by typing 15. $14.53, that rounds up to 15. As I look up, it's seeming to round up everything. $8.02 has been rounded up to 9, but I want it to round to the nearest dollar. So I can, add another value. I'll type an 8 instead here. And now it is simply rounding everything to the nearest whole number. So up to this point, we've demonstrated how Power Query can do a good job at automating processes. And that functionality, it really is quite powerful. But what we've seen in this video is that sometimes Power Query can be a helpful tool in simply creating columns of data by employing a useful pattern detection algorithm.